Hey, Atlanta football party family, Locked On Sports Atlanta family. It's Tenitra with Jarvis Davis, and we're actually here at Flowery Branch for day one of Atlanta Falcons rookie minicamp. It's been an exciting day one that we've been looking forward to for a while, and one of the reasons is because we wanted to have the chance to not only see but talk to Michael Penix Jr., and we had an opportunity to do just that, Jarvis. You asked Michael Penix a couple of questions. What were some of the things that he said to you today that stood out for you at the podium?
One thing that I feel like is very important when you're talking about quarterback play, like the guy has to be like not too hard, not too high, and not too low. And he's the guy that in moments, in big moments, I asked him about. Roma Dunze was talking about how he was freestyling on the sidelines in the championship game, and he was just like, "Oh my God! Like, why would you do something like that?" And then they ended up coming back in that particular game, and he just said how this is something that I've been. I'm just being myself. Like, that's who I am. He said, don't get me wrong, I'm locked in. I was like, yeah, I appreciate that little pun intended for sure, right? But he's just the type of guy that in those moments, in those big moments, he's calm, cool, and collected. And that's what, when you talk about that trait right there, that's something. We talk about traits that transfer from the college to the NFL level. That is definitely one of them, for sure.
And for me, I loved his answer on the obvious, which is, for all intents and purposes, until we're told otherwise, he's the backup QB. But the question was asked, how do you handle that, especially because he's been in that position for so long of being QB1? And he talked about the fact that he understands his position, understands the pecking order, but also appreciates the environment that the Falcons have set, that really it's a level set for everybody to be treated equitably. And it seemed like he appreciated that, and he's trying to approach his job as QB2 to say, hey, I'm still going to be in there getting after it and getting into it just like I'm QB1 because I'm treated the same way as QB1. So I appreciated that perspective that Penix had as well. And also just kind of listening to the opportunity. I love because Raheem Morris kind of level set that too, right? He's asked that question about Michael Penix Jr. and kind of having the two quarterbacks in the room and that sort of thing. And I think he had some great things to say. But what really intrigued you and I with what Coach Raheem had to say today was the question about the pass rush and the fact that he was literally saying, no, we're not there yet. We know we have a lot to do, but it was encouraging that he talked about Turner. He talked about Young, what he saw in his rookies last season for the Rams, and how that allows him to see certain things and look for certain things in this rookie class. What do you think about his comments and kind of how he's viewing the potential pass rushers that he has from this draft class?
I think you got to see what you have. There's one thing to be able to show certain things on film, of course that, and then there's another thing when you get out on the field, like you're dealing with the elements as far as other people around and other guys that are vying for spots as well and vying for snaps. Not necessarily right now because there's a number of rookies around, and you got there's a little bit of pecking order when you draft it versus guys who coming in and are trying out. But when guys like Lorenzo Carter come in, even on the Ebiketie, like I know he got his spot, but like, hey, you never know. You never know, because when you get guys like a Bralen Trice, you get guys like a Brandon Dorless, and being able to put my eyeballs on those guys, you look at them, you talk to them, you saying, you know what, this cat might actually have it. He might be that guy that can come in and be a guy like Byron Young and come in and get you 8 or 9 sacks, because you never know. Because those mid-round guys, when it comes to edge rushers, those guys come in and do well because there's certain traits. Like I said earlier, traits transfer from college to NFL. There are certain traits that transfer more so than others. And when you're talking about having a repertoire and knowing what you're doing and being relentless, which Trice has that trait, those are the type of things you have to look for as far as establishing the roles. And then once you put the pads on, you know what time it is then.
Yeah, and I think we kind of saw that and I'm going to call him what Jarvis has termed him, MPX. I think we kind of saw that in MPX today because you were looking for the accuracy piece, and I was kind of looking to see the footwork because he talked about the secret weapon being that he can still run a little bit, and he doesn't maybe get credit for that. So let's go to the field. What did you see, not just from Michael Penix Jr., but what did you see in looking across the field as far as what he was able to do, or even little sneaky peeks at what some of the defensive guys were able to do today?
One of the things that I feel like MPX, I got to get used to saying that. Like, I came up with it, so I should be used to it. But anyway, but just to be able to see that ball come out of his hand, like it snaps. It's some good zip going on when you talk about Michael Penix throwing the football and the way he does it, and just being so smooth and just as far as the footwork goes, that's something that is very important as well. Yeah. Like, you see how fluid he is, and it just nothing kind of rattles him. I mean, I know there's no pass rush or anything like that, but when you talk about just going through your drills and just looking like you belong and looking like a football player, that's what you see when you see 9 on the field.
And that's the positive and the advantage of getting a player like him who's gone through some adversity. So like you said, there's nothing that's really going to rock him. But you all know Jarvis has been the same from day one, no pun intended, but Jarvis has been the same from day one. Exactly. Right. RP to RATL day one. He's always been focused on what the Falcons should or can get out of a pass rush. And so I wanted to kind of go back to that as well, because you had an opportunity to ask Bralen Trice some questions that you thought when you heard his response and you kind of paid attention, you've been watching the film for months now, and what you saw in him on the field. What was your takeaway from having a chance to see him and talk to him today?
Like, he's very self-aware. Like, that matters, because especially when you get to the professional level, because you can dominate and put up the numbers and everything like that in college. But the one thing about when you get to the professional level, everybody good. Ain't no sweet, like we used to refer to tackles or offensive linemen that aren't that good. We used to call them sweet meat. Like, ain't no sweet meat in the NFL. Like, you got to go out there and actually get it done, right? And then there may be a time you're going to face a guy that's stronger than you. So, okay, how do I beat this guy? Can I get it with my technique? Can I get it with my arm over? Or did I see that on film? Like, oh, he's susceptible to this. But I know he's stronger than me, but I know if I use this move or use this particular move, I know I can get to the quarterback in an efficient way. So it's just things like that. You see the film study and what he is as a player. Because he brought up Max Crosby. I thought that was a very interesting name to bring up, because he plays almost very similar. But he even said it himself. He's like, Max Crosby is being like the superpower of relentlessness. So when you think about that from that standpoint, those are the type of things that you pay attention to when they don't have the pass on, because obviously Raheem Morris even mentioned this. He was like, you look at the movement, you look at how guys are bouncing around. Does he run out after a wide receiver catches the ball? Does he run it out all the way to the end zone, or do he kind of take a little trot and kind of slow down before he gets to the end zone? Those are the things that they're paying attention to. So obviously it's a lot on the line for these guys, but to see Bralen Trice kind of do his thing and be very self-aware of who he is as a player, those are the type of guys that do well in the league.
Yeah, and Coach Ra also talked about being okay with making mistakes just as long as it's the right mistakes, because that's what you expect out here for rookie minicamp, for guys who are either vying for a position on the roster or potentially competing with guys who are already in starting positions. Anyone else that you saw today, Jarvis, or that you heard from today that you said, yeah, I think I'm going to have my eye on him as these off-season workouts continue and as we approach training camp?
Oh, it has to be Ruke Orhorhoro. Like, I got to work on that. That sounds like the Scooby-Doo are going on right now. But I think it has to be him, because he's a big personality. Yes. Dude he enjoys life, right? And hear him talking about his parents and his dad specifically, about how that moment that they had when he was drafted, and he was just talking about how walking into the locker room, he saw his jersey, he immediately called his dad and like, hey man, you got to see this. Like, stuff is just too cool for me. I love hearing that type of stuff, like the relationship that he had. So you understand that he has a good foundation, right? Like, you understand, or he has that Falcon ethos. Like, a lot of these guys are like really good guys. Yes. Like, so, but the only thing is for me, kind of taking that out of it, because I fall in love with it too, because I'm a former athlete. I understand those guys and been in locker rooms, those same type guys. Yep. They got to bring it to the field. It has to come to the field. And I think that, there are some guys that I feel like might bring it to the field a little bit quicker than others. So we'll see. We'll see.
Hey, listen, guys, you know where to find us. Of course, on our YouTube channel for Locked On Sports Atlanta, but also free and available wherever you download your podcasts. Don't forget, it'll be Jarvis Davis, it'll be Tori McElhaney, Aaron Freeman, and me on the Atlanta Football Party, the Falcons edition, come Monday. Check that out for more on rookie mini camp. See you guys. Have a great weekend.